Right, members, good afternoon and welcome to the Scrutiny Committee today for the 15th of December. All of those online, I hope that we look forward. Thank you very much for being online, but you have missed the chocolates that are here. Just wanted you to know that, okay? Right, so as you all know, I'm Jill Slocum, the chair, and we have no flag fire drills today. In the event of a fire alarm, please exit the building to the main reception. Everyone knows where that is now, and the Democratic Services know. The agenda pack with papers is available via ModGov. We don't send any agendas out anymore. It's all by ModGov or online. That's how it's done. It's been done like that for a long, long time. So if anyone hasn't received anything, you need to go online as normal. I'm requesting that members and officers turn off your microphones and videos. But please remember to turn on microphones and videos when you speak, because this helps us with the background noise and the quality. When I invite somebody to speak, could you clearly state who you are for the benefit of anybody who's listening to the meeting? They can identify who's speaking. Can I also remind committee members, obviously, to use the chat function for just business only, please. Agendas are now viewed, as I said, electronically. All agendas are viewed electronically. You can find them on the Somerset website, or you can find them, councillors, on ModGov. Right, thank you. Item 1 is apologies for absence. Over to you, Jamie.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, committee. I've received apologies from Councillor Gothier, Councillor Perry, Councillor Ferguson, for whom Councillor Strom is substituting, and Councillor Bailey, for whom Councillor Cameron is substituting. Councillor Bruce from the committee is online, Chair.
Thank you very much to the new group members who are subbing today. It is really appreciated, as this is a very important meeting, but I do appreciate very short time was decided. So item 2 is declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest, anyone? No. Public question time. I don't believe we have any public speakers this afternoon. Item 4 is budget proposals for 2026-27 to 2030-31 and fees and charges policy. You'll find these on pages 9 to 160. I'd like to welcome and thank officers for attending this afternoon. Today we're going to consider on the medium-term financial plan budget proposals. I'm going to ask for Mel Locke if she would do the introductions, please. She will be inviting the officers as well. Thank you. Thank you, Mel.
Thank you very much. As you're aware, it's a one-item scrutiny, and it is around budget. So what we're looking at today, and what we're wanting you to consider and comment on, is the medium-term financial plans for adult social care. That's all we're doing. We're just in the adult social care one. And that, on my documentation, best place for you to probably go to look at the new savings proposals is slide 29 of that one. Rather than, what I'll do is I will finance online, and I've got Penny with me. So I'm going to run through the proposals for you so that you've got those. I'm going through them. They will jump in if they feel I've missed anything or they want to add to that. Is that okay with you? So if I just start by running through these proposals with you? Or is there anything you wanted to add, Clive?
People are asking if the slides could be shared online. Is that possible?
Slides are in. There's no slides. This is the paper that was there.
The paper that was there.
Only the paper.
Through you, Chair, if I could say a few words at Mel's invitation by context for the committee. By way of context for the committee.
If you're talking, Clive, nobody can hear you.
Okay, the microphones.
So I just crack on.
And now is that
we can hear him online. We can hear him online.
No. I think we've got them in the hearing them. I think we got them in the room.
Can you also hear me online? Because I can hear Clive and I'm online, but can you hear me?
I'm just going to try and sort the room out. I think it's the room that's got a problem.
It's the room.
Not yourself.
Yeah.
You could sing to us while you're waiting so we know if it's working or not, or maybe not.
Could you try again, Clive? Could you try again, please?
Can you hear me now, colleagues?
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Is that better? Yep. Okay. Thank you. So colleagues, through you, Chair, I just wanted to make a few points about the context in which we're setting the budget this year. It is going to be another difficult year of budget setting, and as you know, we're on a journey towards balancing our budget. what local government needs to do is make sure each authority spends as much as it gets in an income every year, and we've been spending broadly 10% more every year than we get in on income, and we've had to make that difference up through exceptional financial support and through increasing council tax above the referendum limit. Governments are very clear that that's not a position that will be able to last forever. We probably will be needing exceptional financial support this next year, and I've indicated to government that we are likely to put a bid in. But having 3 years worth of exceptional support is, whilst not unprecedented, is fairly unusual and limited to a handful of local authorities. I mean, literally 5 or 6 authorities will have done that. We are being one of them. So our journey means that we're continuing to try and balance our budget and get our spending down. When we look at our income as a local authority, we can do a certain amount to influence our own local resources, but not an awful lot. We get money from 4 sources. We get it from government grants, which are largely fixed by government. We get it from business rates, which are fixed by government. And in fact, you may or may not know, but we pay into the national pot. So we collect more than we get to keep, and we pay into the national pot. Again, we don't get to choose that. That's a formula given to us. We've got some flexibility on council tax up to the referendum level, but above that, we need Secretary of State support. And we've got fees and charges, some of which are on your agenda today. But those are the ways that we influence our income. And in the major part, if we're going to get it back in balance, this is about bringing our spending down. And we either do that through savings, traditional savings, which are about stopping doing things or doing less of things, or it's about transformation, which is about thinking about completely different delivery models where we're using technology, better processes, leaner structures in order to deliver better services to residents, but at a lower cost. And that's the focus going forward. Today, you're focusing on the growth in the service and the savings, the more traditional part of the budget. Where's the growth coming from, and where are the savings coming from? And it's important that every directorate and every scrutiny committee looks really closely at what's being proposed and how that's being challenged, and we'll continue that process throughout January and February. Obviously, you've got another scrutiny meeting in early January. I think it's the 5th joint scrutiny committee, and then on the 28th again another joint scrutiny committee. So there'll be more opportunities to come and discuss it. But the message I'm giving to all scrutiny committees is that we have to get back within our spending within our income levels. It's not an option not to, and governments are not going to support us in the long term to carry on using exceptional financial support. So with that, I'll hand across to Mel, but I'll stay online if you want to ask me any questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've been talking as a committee around the adult social care transformation that we've been ongoing for 3 years now. I think we're into year 3. And what you'll see in this really is a continuation of that, which is what we expected to see. So if I run through the proposals that we've got for new savings for 26-27, you'll see we haven't really gone 27, 28, 28, 29, and 29, 30 at this moment in time. So we haven't done that stretch, because what we'll want to do as we go forward is continue with our transformation, probably bring some new transformation in, which is planned to do, and then have a very clear vision of where that's going. So I'm going to stick today to 26-27, which is where my certainty is in this 11.1354 million pounds of savings that we think we can achieve if you're happy with that. And what we want to try and do today is give you the opportunity to talk through some of these, but also then put some recommendations to the other scrutiny committee that is ongoing. So let's start with the first one, which is 262701, which says it's called adult transformation, and that is continuing our demand management linked to productivity, reducing long-term placements, and effective re-enablement to remain in their own home. Our strategy always is, and should be, is about ensuring our older population and everybody has the ability to, where they want to remain in their own homes as long as possible. And it is all around transformation. It's all around us making sure, first of all, that we talk to people really early on about what do you want? Why do you want to stay at home? But it's all about saying, actually, how do we keep you as well and as healthy as possible and help you to remain in your own homes as long as possible? I've said here many, many times that nobody is really looking forward to going to residential and nursing care. It isn't something we want to aspire to. So how do we keep you there? We know that during our adult social care transformation, we were able to reduce our long-term placements and our reablement services, which we are just recommissioning at this moment in time, will continue to help us do that. So we put about a £1.2 million worth of savings in that space. We estimate already, because what you have to do with all these savings, you have to be delivering it now to make full year savings next year. So we're already seeing this part of the budget. It's a continuing on of what we're trying to do, and that continuing on of actually helping people to remain independent as possible. So that's the idea in that space. We are managing demand. You'll see from all of the information that we've been sharing with you over the last year in our performance, that actually you're seeing that not only in our current budget, you're seeing that reduced demand, but you're seeing that in the performance data that we also share with you. I'll pause at that point unless anybody has any questions on that front.
Any questions? Oh, yes.
Hello, Councillor Ewan Cameron from Glastonbury. Demand management used to be one of my best noirs when I was in the NHS. Demand is often mistaken being historic activity. Are you certain it's demand, and how are we actually meeting unmet demands? Do you measure it?
Lovely question, thank you. So demand in this is looked at. So what we do for our demand is we look at population. What is the population like? As you would know, what's the population increase, particularly with our older population. We have tracked that back. We manage both people coming into the service and people leaving the service, so that we know how many people actually leave our service dying at any one time. So we manage that pressure that comes in. In order to manage demand, and the next one adds on to this, it's around how do you prevent? What is our prevention out there? And early intervention and prevention is the most important thing. So we absolutely measure our prevention. What's that doing? What is that increasing? There is more to do in that space, without a doubt. And you will see, as part of the new transformation programs that we'll be discussing a bit later on, as part of the next stage, not today, but going forward, as part of our whole council transformation, prevention is at the heart of this. Now, adults can't do prevention all on its own. We are part of a cog. So that will be about how the whole council supports us to continue that prevention journey. The reason that we fund our communities through our village agents, our community agents, the way in which we're supporting online. The other thing that we've done a lot of this year is support people who are self-funders, so have their own money, to understand earlier on what they can do to keep themselves in their own home. It's all about helping people, and that doesn't matter whether they're going to be part of our service or part of funding their own care. Because what we are also seeing in that managing demand piece is that people are, if they're going into care homes a little too early in my head, then they run out of money and they have depleted funds, and then they turn up on our doorstep. So what we're trying to do is also help people to understand how they can use their money if they are a self-funder a lot better. So we've been having a lot of sessions in that space. So it's a mixture of prevention, early intervention, understanding demand and profiling that. And we have been profiling it for some time.
Thank you very much. Councillor Woods.
Yeah.
Anything happening? Is it on at the side? Put it on the side.
I just wanted to point out that we have an elderly population and we've got to manage how we spend, how much we can spend per person. Unless you do that, you're not going to be able to look at the wider issues. And I talk about my own division. It's grinding to a halt, I'm afraid. I wondered if anybody is monitoring that, because we have the elderly population, we have the younger people, but we haven't got ones in between. Is there any way we can shift that reliance on the older population having to pay at the time for their income, for the income? Is there any way we can change the way we do that? Because my own division is grinding to a halt. I'm sure you can see that.
Councillor Woods, I think this is the whole purpose of today, is that we are seeing the new way of working, that will help people, all of us in every division, to be able to get people to get better cared for And what we're doing is we're working towards getting people cared for in our homes rather than in institutions or in hospitalisation. So I think if you could just bear with us, listen to the rest of this debate, I'm sure it'll come very clear. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Councillor Perston.
Thank you. I am interested in the re-enablement services, and you mentioned it's going out to tender at the moment, which is excellent news. I'm interested in, because obviously we don't get a huge amount of information about what's going on down in the weeds. I would like to ask if we are, given that cottage hospitals and a few of them have been closing beds and such, and this came up a few meetings ago, that the re-enablement tender is either expanding or creating space to compensate, whether we're what the system looks like for the tender, the amount of providers, whether we're incorporating new providers or things like that, and the resilience, creating additional resilience within that system with potentially, new providers that may be available. How many providers do we have?
Can we get Mel
How
to
many
answer?
providers are we going
I
to
think
get?
Mel can to finalise this in a few sentences. Thank you, Mel.
So the contract is already out, the tender we've closed. We're just in a standstill period for re-ablement. It is all about re-ablement, not just re-ablement as we discharge from hospital through our D2A and our home services, but also re-ablement in the community, and that is what we've added on. I can't tell you how many lots it's come out at, because we're actually out for discussion with the market. We are, but we've gone out and we will have lots in each area. So we'll have a provider, a main provider in our area, which is the right thing to do. We can then manage that with them on a commission basis. There is ample supply out there. What I would say is, and I will touch on our community hospitals because it's been a subject for all of us for some time. What I would say, and I went to Frome the other day just to have a conversation with our members there. And one of the conversations I had is if we ended up opening those beds, in my opinion, again, we'd have got it wrong and we'd have failed, because what we weren't doing is re-enabling people well enough and keeping people at home. If you look at our information today, there are beds available, not necessarily in our community hospitals, because actually that's not the best place, but for people in our community, in our pathway 2 or in our residential nursing homes, where they are really good at re-abling, because we have specific places to do that with occupational therapy in their day in, day out delivery. So the services that we've got from hospital and the new service that we put on in place for re-ablement will and should deliver that for us. We've already put an additional 1.6 million, thank you, just double check, more than 1.6 or less, about 1.6 million into that service for re-ablement this year. So that's part of the new tender arrangements.
Is there any opportunity in the future fairly soon, given that the tender process is in that locked in position at the moment when things are being decided, for us to have sight of what the process was, sort of understanding what the process was and what it's going to be going forward, in terms of whether it be increasing providers or whether it, because obviously we know that micro providers are really hard to find as well. So again, this is another section where I think it would be helpful for the scrutiny committee to have a little bit more information on how the tender process, not the process, but the actual groups of people that we have that we contract with. Thank you.
Right, that's fine. Can I go to Councillor Strong now? Thank you very much, Councillor.
Oh, thank you. You said that you are helping people that have the money to stay at home, which is really good. I'm just wondering how you're reaching those people.
Okay, so what we've been doing, and we've got quite a lot of information on it now, is we've been doing a range of things for people. So one, through our village and community agents, we've also been putting online sessions on, which we've publicised. So there's a lot of online sessions, and we've recorded all those online sessions, so they're out there. So we've done a mixture of holding events. So we've held some events for both carers and for people who are self-funders at the moment. So we've held events around the county, and we continue to do that. We've also got an awful lot of online information, so people could join us for our online talks, which we do in the evening and in the daytime, because we know families are out there. The website has all of that on it, so we've got both. But You go, and Emily will put the link in the chat so you've all got that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sully.
Thank you, Chair. So looking at where we are now, we had an overview, we had a briefing, a financial briefing recently. Some of us members just to help navigate the report, the very comprehensive report. And I was interested in how we're doing now, and I could see that out of all the areas in the council, that adults and health had actually reduced spend significantly, and was on track and isn't one of the areas that is necessarily causing concern. So I just wondered, just make that really, share that really with the committee, and just really ask you, Mel, what you think is working, why you're making that progress.
So I think two things really. I think, yes, you can see an underspend on the budget, and I don't know what month has gone public now, but we are, so rather than me giving you an amount, we are definitely underspending, roughly about £3 million at this moment in time. I envisage that may well come down again, and the reason behind that is because we have flu rife out there at the moment, and that may reduce our budget because it's a demand-led budget, as you know. So I can see next month that may come down. However, the reasoning behind all of this is threefold. One, the work we've done with our elder population and our demand management and our prevention that sits along that. Some of the stuff that we have done for people with a working age, whether that be a learning disability or our mental health services, again, that's been about helping people to be the best that they can be and enjoying the life that they want to live. If you can get the right life for somebody with the right outcomes that somebody wants, without a shadow of a doubt, it saves you money. There's no doubt about that in my mind at all. It's not always putting lots and lots of care into somebody is the right thing. Often it is, how do we get a job? How do we live an ordinary life? And that is what people want. If you talk to people about that and ask them what they want and listen to them properly, you can find different solutions. And that's what we try to do. So it is very much our My Life, My Future plan that we have done with Newton and with the support from Newton. That has really helped us to achieve what we've done. I can see the budget still continuing to reduce, hence why I think these savings are ongoing savings, because some of the savings we've got in here, we can see already happening, which is what you would want to see. I wouldn't want to be starting a transformation program today that was supposed to make full year savings halfway through the year. Now for next year, just wouldn't happen. And hence why we will start the next transformation program really early on in the new year to be able, and it's just a continuation on, you never stop. You need to continue looking at what good looks like out there and continuing to strive to that. We also do our benchmarking. So I know where we benchmark good, well, and where we benchmark not so well. So the areas, if you look at us nationally, where our spend is higher still, our spend is still higher in learning disability services. So there's an area to really think through and look at. And part of our next transformation, it isn't about cutting services. That's not what I'm saying here. It's about doing better with the amount of money that we've got and doing that differently.
Thank you, Mel. The one thing I wanted to say to you is that I think that's the message we've got to get through to people. This is not a cross-cutting situation. This is giving people a better standard of living, giving people care in their homes, which is something I think we all deserve and we all should have. Nobody wants to be in a hospital. So I think there's a message, but am I right in saying that eventually this will level out? Eventually, when we get more people being cared for at home, more people not wanting to go into nursing homes, realising they don't need to go in nursing homes, well, this budget will surely level out pretty good, won't it?
We expect us to be able to manage the demand that we have. So what you will know within adult social care is government have enabled us, whether you choose to take it is a choice you make, to have a precept for adult social care. If we take the precept again this year, my expectation is that we live within that precept, that we can manage within. So we manage within any growth that government given us. However, I know, as Friday sat on the call here, that he would expect us also to make savings to live within our means. So because we are the biggest funding, whether that be adults or housing, we're the biggest part of the budget, we need to make the savings and we need to do the right thing. There has to be efficiencies in this budget, and we've been enabled to make those efficiencies over the last few years. And I think we can continue to do that, but there will come a time, I am sure, when we are leveled off of where we can be, and that will be even more difficult for us to keep through and thinking through that transformation. However, by then, maybe we will have a new way of delivering adult social care, and that reform will be in place for us to be able to support it. But out of my control at this moment.
Thank you. With no more questions in the room, I'm going to go to the portfolio holder, Councillor Wakefield, please.
Yes, good afternoon, and apologies for not being with you. I have got a rather sore throat, and I did not want to impose it on anybody by being in the room with you before Christmas. So that's why I'm not on. I'm online. Just to say, in addition to what Mel just said, I think we might hope with NHS reforms and all sorts of other changes across the way we live and work, that you might have a population in better health rather than worse health going forwards, in which case they might be able to remain at home for longer because they're in better health. Now that may be a pipe dream, but it's certainly something we should be aiming for. And I also wanted to mention that with our lower costs for residential care, by keeping people at home for longer and re-abling them, you do get a slight increase in domiciliary care. In other words, people being cared for in their own homes, but that is generally cheaper than putting them in a nursing home. So that works out well for us. And the final thing I wanted to say really was in answer to what Emily Pearlstone said. I was talking to Mel about it this morning. We are going to have a briefing for councillors, and if necessary, if you want a special one for this committee, but certainly for all councillors, about how procurement works and how we do that process with frameworks and how the frameworks work. Because I think it will be good for councillors to have a better understanding of how we actually do go through the process when we are recommissioning, so that they understand that it's fair and a proper way of doing it, according with the government rules of procurement, of course, but also the way we do it in Somerset. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I think that's really good. That's a good statement you've made there. And I think we'd be very glad. I think all councillors should hear that, the procurement. So I think that have a one together would be great. You don't need to do separate ones, but I think that would be very, very good. Mel, do you wish to say anything to what Sarah said?
No, I think that's absolutely fine. Absolutely correct. I could go, if you want, through each one of these line by line, or it's entirely up to you. I could just run through them quickly for you, but what I've talked about here is around transformation. It's about that prevention, that early intervention. You'll see in here there's something called reimbursement, which is 262703. That reimbursement from direct payments is around what we know is we 6 weeks, somebody has about 6. So direct payments is a different way of supporting somebody. It's saying to somebody, okay, how would you like to use your money appropriately? We would do a Care Act assessment as we would for anybody else. Within the Care Act assessment, we say this is the amount of money that we will now give you. They may choose to have a direct payment to deliver that functionality. And we do have, I think, the 5th highest direct payments in the country, which is what we want to do. That's about giving people choice and control. And because we have a really vibrant micro provider market in Somerset, you say it might be difficult to get in some areas. We've got well over 1,000 micro providers in Somerset. It's the biggest in the country. And what that enables us to do is give people choice and control about how they would like to use their money. However, from time to time, we have to have a look at that person's direct payment. They may not have used all of that. And we therefore know that we can get some money back off them. So they may have ended up in hospital for some time and not needed to spend their direct payment at that point. They may have gone to an inpatient mental health hospital for some time. And again, it's about reimbursing that, it's about getting that back. And that figure is based on what we get back year in year. So it's quite an easy figure for us to put on in place. There's a really small money in here around on 04, which is the removal of a current budget for active living grant. We've not had this for some length of time. It's just been stuck in our budget. It's a small amount. We can strip that out without anybody knowing of anybody feeling any effort towards that. The next one's around community equipment, and this is about how we use community equipment. This one is 05, and it's about changing the financial active arrangement for this and making this capital rather than revenue, because it is stock. Because actually we get a lot of our stock back, we clean it and we reuse it. So it's a different way of doing it. Then can we use capital to do that rather than revenue? And I've had a look at that with us, and I think that's what we will be using in that space. And that's the 1.6 million that we spend now on equipment. That's small equipment that we give to people. We know it comes back, so let's work that through. And we have a really good recycling arrangement in that space, so that will work for us, and we know we can do that quite easily. The next one is some of you may say is a little harder, but I think it's probably the right thing to do. And this is around vacation of care homes after after somebody dies normally or moves from a residential to a nursing home. What we have done normally is we have, with our providers, done a 5 days after death. So we've been doing 5 days. We're saying actually our expectation is we drop down to 2 days. This will align with our NHS colleagues who will want to do exactly the same from our ICB. And it is around, we will need further consultation with our care market, and there will need to be a change in terms and conditions of our contracts. However, our contract terms and conditions are up to be re-looked at in April, so it would give us an opportunity to do that at that space. So that is saying after one of your loved one dies, we expect it to be your items to be out there. Now people say that's an awful quick time to turn around, but we need the beds. We do need them, and we know we need that turnaround quite quickly. So we're paying for 5 days, it would reduce us by 3. It's a small saving from an adult's perspective, not for other areas, but it's something we should do around efficiencies.
Thank you. Before I go to Emily, can I just say, sorry, Emily, I just wanted to say that's one of the things that I've been asked a lot of time about the 5 days. And I think the 2 days are far better. I know when my mother, personally, I wanted to clear it straight away. The thing I think a lot of people are upset about, that if this is really respectfully, I say that, but if your mother dies on the day of the new week, after a certain hour, they charge you the whole week. Now, I challenged it and they absolutely said, no, you were right to challenge it, that's fine. And that sounds a bit mercenary, I don't mean it to, but I think that's another thing they should look at as well, because I think that's really important. But I do think the 2 days, absolutely, that's a good idea. You need to get stuff out straight away, you know. Sorry, Emily, sorry.
Thank you. I'm actually in agreement with that 2 days, and it does sound harsh. Usually people are well aware that their relative is going to be passing within a fair amount of time, you know, a relatively short space of time, can make arrangements. And I'm sure that the care homes will be more than happy to help should there be distance problems or things like that. I think that reducing it to 2 is, you know, pretty fair. I'm sure the care homes will be more than happy to help in all sorts of ways.
Lovely.
Okay, keep going through. Court of protection, this is about maximising the income from cases that go to court of protection, where the local authority interimly funds somebody for their case. So it's about saying, actually, how can we do that better? How can we make sure that we manage our finances better in that space? So that's about going back to individuals, being really clear with them that when somebody goes into care, actually, if they've got a home, if they've got somewhere of delivering, we can get that money back pretty quickly. And we're seeing a better financial activity in that space and seeing that income come in. And that's based on what we know we can do better. It's about actually, how do you make sure you are as efficient and effective as you can be. The next one is around joint funding and 117 funding. What we know is it's joint funding with our colleagues in health, and it's about saying, actually making sure that we are clear about when the responsibility is for ourselves in adult social care and where that responsibility is to do with health. And that's about income generating for that. We know we can get this in place. It's around a better protocol. We've looked at what others are doing in other areas and other local authorities, and we think that is an amount of money that we should be able to generate back into ourselves from our health colleagues. And then finally, the last one is around double handling. Funny terminology, I am sure, but it's about where people need 2 people to support them in their own homes. It's making sure we've got the right aids and adaptations in place. We've trained people efficiently, so sometimes you only need 1 person to help that person to turn because we have the right equipment in. We've been doing this for a long time with our health colleagues. We need to keep going, because sometimes when somebody leaves hospital, our health colleagues, in the best will in the world, will overprescribe in my head, and you may have 3 or 4 people going somewhere when actually, if you get the right equipment in straight away, you don't need that. You need 1 person, and actually people don't really want 3 or 4 people going to see them, or 2 and 3. It is, and we also then can put right equipment in and support that. This one, however, is a budget that we've had in there for a long period of time. We don't need it anymore because we've done things better. We can just take that out of the budget. So that amounts to 11.354 million pounds that we think we can make next year. I would put a large proportion of that on green. There are some which are a little bit more to do, and that probably, as your Court of Protection, isn't as easy as it is. But most of it, I think we can manage within a year if we continue on the journey that we're currently on, and we monitor and manage that through our boards that we have in place to manage our financial, how we're managing our finances across adult social care.
I'd like to just say to you, you mentioned about supporting. We need to change people's mindset on that as well. Most people believe that if they're being having to be hoisted, their family's being hoisted, it has to be by two people. They believe that's law. I think that's and I've heard that so many times that we had somebody come to do mum, but there was only one person, although they've got the equipment in-house. Can we make sure that that actually is given, that message is given out to families? Because I think it would make a lot of difference.
Sometimes it may need two people, and I'm not going to sit here and say nobody has to be managed twice, but that would be part of the care plan. So the care plan will be really clear. The occupational therapist will be really clear about what that individual needs, and with that provider what they need. That's what we would need to do. But often we can manage in a different way by getting the right equipment in at the right time.
Thank you. Councillor Trimdon.
Thank you very much. So I've got questions sort of spread across some different notes, as it were. So two of my questions in a way relate to some stuff that came up in corporate resources around adults. And so I appreciate that you don't have the papers in front of you, but there was a line on harmonising Lifeline, and there was quite a saving to be had through that. But that's not on here, no. Okay, because I just wanted to understand what that was about. That was all.
So that isn't adults. Lifeline isn't managed within
Right.
adults. It's managed within community. So I'd have that conversation in communities. What I would say with Lifeline, because it's now come into the local authority, it's been done very differently across all. It gives them an opportunity to deliver that differently and probably get a different income from it. But hold that thought and take it somewhere else, please.
Yeah, I'm very happy to. I don't know why I thought that had come under adults, but it was on different papers. The next question that I've got is a photograph that I've taken of an iPad on my phone, and it is from these papers. You'll be pleased to know. And I'm just can't even find my own album. Right, okay. I have to try and do it from memory. So basically, there are some quite small cuts in here. Obviously, every penny counts, and I get that. But I wondered whether we are getting to the point where the adults' budget is as cut as we're going to get it. And therefore, would there be an expectation, or will there have to be a pushback on further cuts for the following years? Because we know that the council has a liability to keep on making cuts to reduce that budget over time. Are we pretty much there now?
I think there's more to go at, and I think what we, as a whole council, we've looked at transformation, and we are looking at transformation. One of the areas that I'm sure will be discussed at a later stage, once we've absolutely nailed that transformation down, is areas within adult social care that we can continue to improve on and move forward. So I think that there is more to go, and I think the more to go is in that prevention, early intervention arm. And I think that's about whole council and making sure we have vibrant communities that support each other. I think there's an area in that space. I think the other area, as I've said, is we know from a learning disability point of view, we are if you look at our benchmarking, we're a higher spender in that space. So again, there's work to do in that area to help us around transitioning in, we know that costs in children's services are quite high. So how do we do that a bit earlier? How do we pull in earlier so that the expectations are right and those individuals are supported to have the best life they can have at the right price? So there's work to do in that space still.
Thank you. And then there's one more. I really don't want to get in trouble for asking this, because this was on the the corporate and resources scrutiny papers, but it did relate to adult social care. And I wasn't able to ask the question because I think you had left the meeting by the time it came up, and that's fine. And so I put a note to myself that there was a risk that the council fails to address its statutory responsibilities around adult social care responsibilities. And it did come up as a red, it was 16 as a current score. And I just wondered whether anything to do with the cuts that we're having to make are what are concerning that, because obviously, like you said, it's a reactive budget, I suppose. And so would there be a risk that we were unable to scale up the work if there was an increase in demand? Thank you.
You're absolutely right, it's a demand-led budget, and we do our best to make sure we predict. But there are examples where people come into Somerset that we're not aware of, and their costs are quite high. So I'll give you a really easy example. I know soon there will be somebody coming into Somerset who is living elsewhere abroad. However, they are citizens of some of this country. Therefore, if they come back to the country and they have a son or daughter that has a learning disability and they choose to come to Somerset, they will then be our responsibilities. And that could be a very high cost dependent on the individual needs. We know for a person with a learning disability with complex needs and complex behavioural needs, then sometimes that can cost us £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 a week. We know that, and that isn't in the budget. We're not able to do that. However, we tend to know what's happening and where's coming. The other things that will affect us are sometimes government will say, rightly so, that there's an increase in living wage. So we know that that's coming. We have budgeted for that, so we're okay. But we also know that they're changing the way in which they will deliver. So there's a fair cost for care coming on. So rightly so, we should pay our care workers the right wage. However, if the government then don't give us the money to actually deliver that, that will be a risk for us going forward. So there are risks out there, hence why that is in there, which plays to things that are outside my control or our control. Yeah. We have to understand that's why your risk is high.
Yeah, and I totally understand that. And I just wanted to find out that those are the kind of answers that are reassuring, and that was what I was after. So we don't have a reserve in the adults budget. So there's no such thing. If demand became great enough, do we have the available, is the money made available given the statutory requirements of the service, or would you have to make further cuts to meet additional demand?
We try, first of all, as always, to manage it within our adult social care budget. That is the first call for all of us. So every executive, it said, look, if you're going to overspend, manage within your own budget first. But if you have done everything and you can't, that's why we have a corporate contingency.
Yeah, right.
And I began to Clive, and I've already been talking to Clive throughout this period to say, hang on a minute, things aren't working that well. I've done this, I've done that. And he would be challenging me, rightly so, to say, well, have you thought about this? You're already in this space here, what have you done? But ultimately, if there's demand coming in that we cannot understand and we have to do for, we would have to take that up corporate contingency.
Fabulous, thank you very much. Oh, that didn't work.
Do we know what the contingency amount is? Do we know what we've got there?
I'm going to you here.
Thank you, Mel. Overall, the reserves that we hold as a council are £137 million, which puts us in around the bottom quartile for councils of our nature, what we call single tier authorities. So our reserves are low. They may sound an awful lot, but they're very low. The requirement, of course, is that we fulfil our statutory duties. There are many ways we can carry out those statutory duties and many ways of cutting costs. So we'll continue to look at that. But it's important to know that we will not stop funding if we get into a position of breaching statutory duty. That just can never happen. So we'll always stay safe and legal.
That was my next question. So that's really good to hear. That's really good to hear. I've forgotten. I do apologise, Councillor. Your surname, you've got a little Cameron. Cameron, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mel and team, thank you very much. This is really complex stuff and hard decisions have to be made. I note that in the proposal on paragraph 68, it suggests that we'll have a full equality impact assessment closer to the time, and you now will understand my nervousness around that because some of these cuts I fear may disproportionately affect some of our communities, and I'd be really interested when that time comes, when the EIA is delivered, to really understand how that impacts on minorities, single parents, gender imbalance, and also specific communities. Don't expect an answer now, but that's my only nervousness around the cuts at the moment.
And it's imperative that we do that, absolutely. And we are clear if we are impacted, how we're impacted, and what mitigations we have in place, because there are always impacts. In everything that we're going to do, there'll be an impact. For me, it's about what mitigations are we doing and how are we measuring and monitoring those mitigations so that if we do get it wrong, in essence, or we're seeing for a particular part of our community, whatever that is, then we make sure that we understand that better and do something about it.
That's very reassuring. Thank you very much. Thank you, because we're worried about striding forward and then we don't want to be going backwards, that we can't cope or we haven't got the funding. Okay, does anyone else have any questions here, please? In the room? No? Right, that's what next now.
On page 33, we've got something which talks about fees and charges and high rate elements. What we've done again is we've benchmarked ourselves around other areas and fees and charges. It is number 2627/09, and that's fees and charges under adult social care and housing. What we're going to do is ensure that we maximise the benefits entitlement in relation to client contribution to optimise the level of income from clients. So a part of that, there's a work stream at this moment in time, just looking at that, what can we do and what can't we do? Now, we know as part of that, and government have signalled this already. I'm not sure if they've signalled it and it's out, but I know they've signalled it, is that they are going to look at individuals maintaining, so normally it's about 3% of your income that as your gross income comes in, you normally year on year, they give you 3% extra that you can keep after we have a look at what fees and charges, what fees that we can then take of you. I think they're looking at 4.1 to 4.5% that you are able to keep. So giving people the money that they receive more money. So even if you are on benefits, we will do a financial benefits assessment and we will then have a look at what you do and we will then ask you to contribute to your care and support. What this is saying is let's have a look at that. We think having a look at that, we can probably generate another £2 million from individuals for that because we probably haven't charged and haven't been robust as much and probably been a little nice in places that we can do this compared to other areas. And again, we've looked at it across the piece. £2 million probably sounds a lot, but if you spread that across the amount of people that we support, it isn't that much. However, we've just got to check, and we haven't had yet, what the government are doing and how much that changes. Particularly for people with a learning disability, what does that change in that space?
Mel, could I just ask you, would that be individual means testing type of idea?
Yes, exactly what it is. It's a financial and benefit assessment. So we do now on every individual. So regardless of whether you're coming into our care or not. So if you're into a residential or nursing care setting, we leave you with the idea. So it's
23 to
No, how much do we take? How much do we leave the individual with? £32 a week, I think, yeah. So if you come into residential and nursing care, we leave that individual with about £32 a week. That's all we leave them with. The rest, because they are getting their home, their food and everything. And that's part of that benefit. So that's one of the things we'll look at as part of our health process.
Excellent, excellent. Excellent. I mean, nobody wants to, but you want to work in this budget out. That sounds very good. Who's our next speaker? Anyone? Are we there?
I have no more on our savings that we want to do. I'm not sure whether you're wanting today or not to also have a look at. So part of our budget always is, yes, here's savings, but actually we could do with a bit of growth as well, because there's a give and take in this world. So we have got a bit of growth here that we are at this moment in time requesting. It's not in the paper, but I know that Clive mentioned growth and I wasn't going to do growth, but if you want us to do growth, we can do growth. Clive, is that now or are we going to do that later on at another scrutiny?
Clive, are you there? I can't see him there actually.
He is there.
Clive, do you want us to do growth today or are we going to do that another scrutiny? If no, that's even better. We can leave it because that's all right. We can do growth at another scrutiny, I think, is probably the way we're going forward. We have asked for growth, and let me just give you a quick example so that you've got that in your heads when you see it. One of the things that we will do is we have to pay our market a little bit more year on year. I don't know by how much because we have a negotiation with the market as part of that process. But obviously, we've got an increase in living wage this year. We also have, we have to increase to the market to do that. So we will increase the market and there is a cost for doing that. It'll be a low increase for the market, just in case any of that market are out there listening, but we will give them something. So growth in adults, you will see, is part of our market supply and giving as part of our contractual arrangements and our non-contractual arrangements, the market some funding. The other bit that we will be asking for is some growth for learning disability. I know I said the spend on learning disability is too high, which it is. But the other part that we will be having a look at as part of that process is saying, okay, we know we've got X amount of people coming through in transition. And we know that because we map our transitions from age 14 up. So I know where they are. I can never tell you when they're coming in or not because often they're living with family, but we do it from the age of 18 and from their birthday, not from when they hit their 18th year. So we've mapped that in. So we will be asking for a small amount of growth in that area as well. We will not be asking for growth in our older population. We don't need it, although the numbers are coming up, we're doing things differently, and we do not need growth in that area. We're managing that really well. So there'll be no growth in that area, but the two areas we will be asking for is those two areas, and we understand it, we know why. So hopefully, I will be really keen and give us that in those spaces. However, he is challenging nicely, rightly so.
Lovely, right, members, councillor Trimble.
Sorry, so because it's not just out of interest, obviously the government will fund. They give it, well, we get the increase. Are you aware how much that's going to be? So is there funding? And if we get grant funding, are any of those grants at risk? I can see you're all shaking your heads. I'm sorry, I'm asking really stupid
You're not asking
questions
stupid
today.
questions, but we don't know everything. We will have settlement. I'm hoping comes Wednesday. Times today was Tuesday, but I heard Wednesday. So when I was talking to Department the other day, it was Wednesday. So I'm hoping that it is Wednesday that we get all that information, and we will know at that point exactly what is coming in. It's really difficult to say at this moment in time. We've made rough guesstimates on what we've got so far, but yeah, it's a complicated equation that they all look to. It was that I had a very similar conversation with Clive the other day, who then showed me the spreadsheet, and I said, I don't really want it in that much detail. So there is not lots of information out there, but again, it'll wait till the settlement comes through.
And then just a final bit, the voluntary sector, obviously we've sort of, we're trying to involve and make use of the voluntary sector wherever it comes from. And I ask fairly regularly, are we still confident that the voluntary sector is holding up? We know that obviously there are lots of pressures on people who might have retired and gone into voluntary roles who are now having to stay on in work for longer. Are we confident the voluntary sector can be there for us as and when we need?
What I'd say is the thing about having an aging population that is fantastic is a lot of them volunteer, and that is great for us. So, people say we've got an aging population. I say yes, but look at what they do for us when they're fit enough and healthy enough to do that. And I think that's magnificent. And what I'd say is we've got an infrastructure organisation in Spark that we fund. They look at volunteers for us and support that. For our very small, it's hard to do volunteering because volunteers have to be supported. You can't just be a volunteer without actually sometimes having the right support. So we pay an infrastructure as it is in Spark to help us with that, and they do, and they recruit volunteers for us. So I would say and across the Southwest, we know compared to other regions that we have one of the highest rates of volunteering. I think the challenge for us now is to say, actually, those younger people, how do we keep you volunteering as well? And how do we get you interested in volunteering? But yeah, I think at this moment in time, we're quite vibrant as a county in our volunteer sector. But I would urge everyone, whether listening or not, to volunteer even when they could and give back, because that's part of what we should do.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah, I must say, I learned myself when I was chairman how much volunteering there is in Somerset. Absolutely incredible. And you do realise that you couldn't, daily life couldn't really concur without this help. So a really big thank you to all volunteers out there, no matter what you do. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, is there any members online that wish to speak, please? Because no, I think everyone's happy. Good. Okay, you see the 6 recommendations that were in this report. It says that Councillor Lation wanted to speak. Does Councillor Lation want to speak? She do?
I don't think she's online today. She's been doing lots of other budget meetings. So
I'm sure she has. I'm sure she
so
has.
I think she's fine to leave it to us.
Okay, well, that's very kind. So you see the executive on page 10, the recommendations. Page 10, is everybody in favour? Everybody happy with those recommendations? Everybody happy? Can I show of hands, please? Everybody happy? Thank you very much. Well, thank you. I'd like to thank Mel and the team, as always, very comprehensive answering. I'm always feel very confident in that if you can't find the answer, you can't give me the answer straight away, you'll find it, which is really, really good. So thank you very much. And thank you for the very sensible and very good questions from the members here today. I really appreciate it very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we're now going to move on. Hannah, you're happy with that? Good. Okay, we'll move on now to item 5, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. To apologise to the committee, the forward work programme is not in a fit enough state to circulate currently. That is one of my jobs to do before the Christmas break. Officers did have a meeting. I'm sending out a draft version to yourself and Councillor Sully and relevant officers before circulating a final version to the committee ahead of our January meeting.
Okay, so I just wanted to tell you something. I think that Helen, I sent you some emails today, didn't I? We have some proposals that are coming forward, and it's being sent out today for you. This will be about Burnham Hospital, and this will be about Crewkern Hospital, and it will also be an update on the stroke situation in Yeovil. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask that they've asked in January if they could come to talk about the changes. They're good changes in one sense, because they're going to bring better services into the hospital. But I've asked Helen if that can go on the work programme for January, if everyone's happy with that. So I'm making a marker for that now, because they really feel they're going to give you the information to look over Christmas time, and then you can obviously have some questions, sensible questions, or rubbish questions, whatever, come back in January. So I think that's it. Does anybody else want to mention anything about the work programme? Does anybody have any comments? Do you have any burning desire? No burning desires for anything else? Because the January one looks, at the moment, we've got social care training in Bridgewater, and then we had scrutiny, the forward, obviously, our work programme. So there was a situation where I think the ICB want to come forward with plans in February. I just want to make sure, Councillor Bruce, did you have anything that you wanted to bring to the forward plan? I'm sure you mentioned something to me. I just want to make sure I don't miss over anything you wanted to say.
Hi, Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, can. Thank you.
Hi. Yeah, I think it was just what we've spoken about before about aligning the primary care provision with housing developments, making sure that we're doing it in a timely manner. So as housing developments come forward, that the primary care provision is there, and talking to the ICB about how that's being managed.
That's super. Many times under planning, things come up, and sometimes there's no comment from the NHS, there's no comment from the ICB to say about whether this is right, wrong, or anything different. So what we're saying is in alignments, we want things to work a little bit better together so everyone has a voice. And I think Councillor Bruce has brought this up really well. And I think that we'll put that in if we can, Helen, for January as well. Is that okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bruce, because it's really good that, I know you really mentioned that. It's a very, very important factor. Thank you. Thank you. I don't think at the moment we have a scrutiny and resources on the 5th of January. Yeah, there's a corporate resources on the 5th of January, and our next meeting is on the 8th of January. So I would like to thank you all very, very much for coming today. Thank you all online as well. I appreciate the time scale. I wish you all a very happy Christmas and a happy New Year. But I also want to thank you so much for the support and the knowledge and really good performances from this committee. It's been excellent. And I want to thank you very, very much, because it's certainly helped me. It made me look better, I'll tell you. So thank you very, very much. And see you next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.